And here we go. Welcome to the Suppress Herald. Next episode. It's been a little bit. I've been busy in the summer and getting things done and, real job and all that stuff. But we're giving this a run. And it is Monday, the 26th of August, leading into Labor Day. It has been quite a couple of weeks. And part of being busy is just kind of following all the news that's been happening and the comparison of real, if you are interested in looking for real, as opposed to the Suppress Herald. And I've got a couple of weeks to kind of run through and get a taste for the kind of response they've had to the basically the coup, the palace coup in the White House, where they removed Biden, just took him out and decided he wasn't going to win, so we just take him out and installed Kamala Harris. So here she is. She got her Senate seat, as far as I remember, just got handed that when the previous senator resigned or left and retired. And so they just handed Kamala the Senate in California. And then once you get in, she ran for reelection, but nobody challenged her. And now here we go. Nobody, in effect, was able to challenge her. Nobody was allowed to challenge her. And she is the nominee for the President of the United States, which is hard to put in the same sentence, Kamala Harris and President of the United States. But here we go. The Suppress Herald and the rest of the propaganda machine are hard at work. So what I'd like to do is just we're going to peruse through 2 weeks of the Suppress Herald here in Maine. And as you might imagine, the counts remain to be ridiculous as far as the liberal versus conservative on the editorial pages. And the editorial in the paper is sometimes almost laughable and sometimes really concerning in that you recognize it if you really look at it, step back, take a look at it in a broader scope, and realize that this is just propaganda. And, you know, we'll start with Tuesday, August 13th. This is a couple weeks ago. And this is the local and state section. And I'm just going to pick some headlines and just kind of talk about what they're talking about here and kind of highlight what we're being fed, spoon fed by propagandists who work at the newsrooms of this country and all from small local papers. And as I've said, I'll repeat it, politics is local and so is propaganda. And right here in Maine, that is majorly the case. So the National Trust for Local News, owned by Soros and Obadiah and Bill Gates, now in a nonprofit they formed to buy up newspapers, local papers across the country. They're also buying up radio stations and everything else and controlling what we hear, see, and are able to do ultimately. And so here we start. This is the local and state section. Challengers seek to disqualify RFK Jr. Now, here we are 2 weeks later, and RFK, as you are, I'm sure, aware, has dropped out of the race officially and endorsed Trump. But challengers seek to disqualify RFK Jr. and Cornel West from the main ballot. Two third party candidates, and there's a major organization, and they don't talk much about this. They do get into it a little bit in here. They do say that, the group challenging the petition is evidently, if these were news people, they'd be able to research the group. They know who it is. It's a Democrat operative group. Challenging our petition is evidently driven by partisan interest. Yeah, this is lawfare. This is Democrat lawfare, paving the way for the coronation of their chosen candidate, which unfortunately is Kamala Harris. And so they want to take out RFK Jr. and they want to take out Cornel West and anybody else that's third party that could steal any votes from their candidate. What they're really after is make it look good, at least make it close, so that on the day of the election and the days following, they can steal it. So, you know, in that, it's unbelievable. This is August 13th, and you have This is the headline, Election 24 coverage. Harris pushing joy. Trump a darker picture. Will moods matter? I don't know about you, but if you ever watch or attend a Trump rally, talk about joy. It's having fun. It's a lot of people that are loving life out there to support him. And he's joking, he's having fun. Yeah, he's taking shots at his competitors. He's taking shots at Kamala Harris and others. He's taking shots at liberal Democrats trying to ruin the country, but he's having fun. And this is just garbage, basically. This is just, again, Harris pushing joy. She's not pushing joy. She's not pushing anything. That should be Harris. We don't even know what she's pushing because she doesn't even, she's hiding. How can you know she's pushing joy if you haven't even seen her? So that's garbage. And judge rules against RFK Jr. and fight to be on the New York ballot. So they took RFK out in New York. Lawfare. They said he wasn't really a resident there or whatever. They're making up anything. They're basically, it's lawfare. Lawfare is designed not to be right. It's not meant to be the law. It's meant to be, we're going to tie you up, break break you, force you to spend millions of dollars that you don't have just defending yourself. That's what they've been doing to Trump and his campaign, spending tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees defending himself from lawfare. This is their new way of winning elections. They're not winning anything. They're just, it's gross attacks on all of their opponents. They're not winning the election with popularity with their policies. They're winning elections by eliminating their competition. It's what Obama did. If you look back, he took out his competitors in the state Senate in Illinois, in the U.S. Senate in Illinois. When he got elected to the Senate, he took out his competitors, went and used lawfare, and basically played dirty. He never won an election, and he didn't win his election in the first place. They were stealing elections all the way back then. So then you've got, this is a big one because Trump came out with the no tax on tips plan, and of course, then Harris followed, said she's going to steal that and do that, but Trump was there first, and it's a winning formula for gathering votes from a lot of people that Democrats have relied on. And why Trump and Harris no tax on tips plans may not help tipped workers. It's a whole bullshit story about how there aren't that many people that are tip workers and everything else. Not in this gig economy. Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, bartenders, people in hotels, the entire hospitality industry, people who mow lawns, people who run lawn services, service industry people all get tips. Kamala Harris signed, and there's nowhere that says in there, she signed the bill to add 87,000 new IRS agents. She was the one who cast the deciding vote in the Senate as the vice president in a tie to sick 87,000 new IRS agents on the American people. And part of their task is to track down people's tips and make sure they declare their tips as income. People aren't stupid. And then you've got, the opinion section. I'm just going to pick through. We know it's completely tilted, but here's a big one. The anybody that's watched things and are following along know that the vice president picked by Kamala Harris, Mr. Waltz, is a big liar. His history, he's lied, and things keep coming out. He lied about winning an award from the Chamber of Commerce in Minnesota that was lies. He lied about his service. He lied about when he left, he basically bailed on his troops that were being deployed to Iraq, and he decided to bail, retire, run away, go hide, yellow bellied, you know what? Stolen valor. So here's the opinion section, and this is from Clarence Page, who's a loser from, loser from away, Chicago Tribune. Yeah, that's a really level headed newspaper. Why stolen valor political fights are so intense and misplaced. In other words, let's beat down that stolen valor stuff. Let's cover for the guy, even though he did steal valor. He lied about his rank when he retired, and he lied about when he retired and why. And the reality is he ran away because he's a coward. That's the last person you want a heartbeat away from being the commander in chief of the United States military. So there's the cover. That's what we see as propaganda. So it's just more of the same. And it just goes on. So then here's a good one. After Biden exited race, Maine voter registrations saw a spike. Nearly 3,800 people registered to vote in Maine in July, the most of any month in the last year, with the exception of November 2023. They're trying to depict this as Kamala Harris has got everybody excited, all the energy, and everybody's going out and raising all this money. I think they're going to find that that money ran through Act Blue illegally, millions and millions of dollars attributed to small donors that don't exist or that made hundreds or thousands of donations, small donations, and aren't even aware of it. And that's what's being investigated. But you don't see any of that in this paper. It is being investigated by attorneys general on Act Blue. All this money, these millions of dollars that flowed through Act Blue to the Kamala Harris campaign. And we're not sure that it was legal, all that money. So here you've got it, a total of 3,793 people registered to vote in July, with the number of registrations jumping significantly in the 2 weeks following Biden's July announcement he was exiting the race. But the state doesn't ask people why they are registering to vote, but department spokesperson Emily Cook said election officials often see surges in the lead up to elections. They also say in here that they don't tell you whether they're registering as Republicans or Democrats. They're implying that it's excitement for Harris. After Biden exited race, Maine voter registration saw a spike. Yeah. So it's just more propaganda without any real basis. Here's this is the Working Waterfront. This is a small newspaper, insert, call it a separate paper that's weekly or maybe even monthly, that's put into the Suppress Herald Sunday paper. And it even in here, you can't. This is supposed to be about the working waterfront, lobstermen, fishermen, and all of that things along the waterfront in Maine, which is a major industry. But here's the editor of the Working Waterfront. Let's be real about crime anxiety. Numbers don't lie. Maine remains a safe place to live. Yeah, unless you're in crime-ridden Portland, Maine, where thousands of illegal immigrants and homeless and lack of police because Black Lives Matter won the day. Let's not talk about any of that. So then this is another, this is in the very local paper, the Scarborough Leader, which is one town in Scarborough. This is a little local, once a week freebie. And this is by Abdi Noor Iftin, a Somali American who writes a regular column. How Waltz is re energizing immigrant communities. Well, of course he is. Open borders and all the rest. You've got sea level rise, That's going in a big way. You got to remember that when this election really happens, it's going to come down to two things for the Democrats. They don't have much to talk about. They want to kill more babies and save the earth from global warming. That's the only two subjects they can talk about: immigration, crime, inflation, groceries, the economy, peace in the world. None of those things are in their camp at all. As a matter of fact, they don't want to talk about those at all. Global warming and abortion. Kill babies, save the planet. It's what it all they got. And that's what you see in this propaganda rag all week, every week. In Scarborough, development and sea level rise threaten beloved marsh, even though they can't really show that sea levels have risen. We've had some storms, but our seas go up and down every day. It's called the tides. The tides are influenced by the moon traveling around the earth. That moon's pull with gravity pulls, elongates the oceans, and that's where your tides come from. Twice a day, the moon travels around and elongates that water that surrounds the earth and causes tides. If the moon's a little bit closer to the earth, then that pull's going to be stronger. Tides could be causing unusually high tides. The moon and its position. They don't talk about that. There's a lot they don't talk about. But it's convenient to have storms that do damage and blame it on oceans rising and sea level rising and global warming. Here's in the Maine Gardener, okay? This is in the Sunday section. This is just the Maine Gardener section. If rising sea levels threaten your garden, we have ideas on what to plant. It's just never ending. Then you've got this one. Kamala Harris plays up her fast food past and hopes the voters are loving it. I guess she worked at McDonald's. Here's a big one. Here's a bit of news for those that aren't informed. Kamala Harris grew up outside of Montreal, Canada, in a very affluent, actually the most affluent neighborhood outside of Montreal. Parents were professors living in a ritzy house in a ritzy neighborhood, and she was a spoiled rich kid. Don't let the media propaganda fool you. She worked at a McDonald's, and so she's, one of us. What a load of crap. But there it is, right here in the Suppress Herald. And here's a good one. This is an article on Trump. I'm just going to show a quick thing. It's about Trump's, reported wealth and so forth. Is where he gets his money. Trump's golf courses are also generate money for him, including 37 million from his club in Bedminster, New Jersey, where he gave a rambling press conference on Thursday. Well, that's not what this is about. It's about his revenue, where he gets his money, and so forth. A rambling press conference. So you know who wrote this piece. It's a propaganda chief or a propaganda minion, actually, probably at the Washington Post. I'm not even going to look because I can almost tell you it is. And they just have to stick that in there, a rambling speech. It wasn't rambling, it was extensive. And here's a good one. He gave a 2 hour press conference. Kamala Harris hasn't given a 2 minute press conference. How about putting that in the article? No, that's not going to appear there. So then, I'm just cherry picking here, but this is the opinion page. Here we are going on Saturday of this 2 week period, first of the 2 weeks. There's nothing good one can say about effects of climate change. In other words, somebody had written a letter and said, well, it's getting warmer isn't all bad. There's a lot more growth and plants and crops and so forth, and less fuel burning, and 8 times as many people die from freezing as from heat. But we don't want to put that in there. But it's climate change is just going to kill us all. So don't argue with me. Then you have Thursday, August 8th. Walt's pick resonates with donors Midwest. J.D. Vance, in his Midwest appearances, sought to portray the vice president as too liberal. And here they go, trying to paint the guy as some kind of, flannel wearing, football coach, teacher, regular Midwest guy. Anybody looks anywhere near close to this guy knows that he is an extremist liberal, right in there with Kamala Harris. The two of them are communists, pretty much. But they're trying to paint the picture that he's not what he is. That's called propaganda. And this paper goes right with it. And then you've got Trump veers from economy to insults. So they're just going to, they're going to cherry pick a speech, say two things he said, two sentences out of 2 hours. And there you go. That's how they do it. Meanwhile, over at the liberal side, affinity groups jump on Zoom calls to back Harris. Deadheads for Kamala, cat ladies for Kamala. Even Republicans are joining the telephone style fundraising calls. Yeah, right. I can tell you a week later, people are laughing and mocking all of that. It's a bit of a joke. Going right to the following week, offshore wind offers a glimmer of hope. Another global warming, big time. And, the opinion pages is just all dominated by letters. I won't bother going through all the letters, but it's just dominated by letters ridiculing, attacking Trump's a existential threat to democracy, la, la, la. Kamala Harris, oh, how wonderful and joyful. And then you've got this is priceless. Young Mainers are taking action this election cycle. After almost a decade of frustration, young people have candidates who will truly fight for our interests, and we're showing up to secure our victory. That's a long, not just a letter, but a editorial on the page. Meanwhile, here in Maine, statistics show that a lot of young people are signing up as Republicans, and they're in denial on all that. And it's going to be interesting. But they print a letter from one young skull full of mush who is an activist and talking about how they're really getting going. Right. And just for good measure, judge allows transgender girl to play soccer while lawsuit challenges New Hampshire's Fairness in Women's Sports Act. Well, I hope it gets to the Supreme Court because we won't have any women's sports anymore. Who's protecting women? I can tell you, it's not the Democrat Party. It's liberals are attacking women and getting women attacked, literally, in sports and by men in sports and by illegal aliens. in the out in the world. And here's federal climate policy now. Letter to the editor. Same old, same old. And there's the cartoon, excessive joy in the arena, and there's Kamala and Waltz standing there with their hands up and balloons. Oh yeah. And a letter to the editor, a stark reminder that climate change is global. Yep. It just never ends. And then there's the Sunday, August 25th. So this is just yesterday's paper, and it's really priceless. This is on the politics page, election 24. This is a regular. Okay, now this is why the Washington Post team tries to energize a struggling Trump. Aides tried to get him to focus on policy, but the Republican nominee appeared happier entertaining crowds and insulting his opponent. This guy is out doing rallies, massive rallies after massive rally after massive rally. And they're trying to this is pure, unadulterated, you know what, propaganda. It's also BS. And I can tell you that there's a picture in this. Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump shakes hands with independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at a campaign rally at the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. When RFK Jr. came out and endorsed Trump, and when he gave his basically suspension speech for his campaign, not officially all of it, but basically conceding and the suspension. If you go and watch that speech, that is a unifying speech in many, many ways. He talks about weaponization of the Justice Department, lawfare trying to shut down his campaign, the Democrats preventing him from running as a Democrat in the primary, not allowing Joe Biden to be primaried. Then he drops out, and they don't have a primary. They just coronate somebody who never got a single vote, who was number 9 4 years ago when 9 people were running for the Democrat nomination. She didn't even make the first primary and dropped out. Extremely unpopular, most unpopular vice president in history, and here she is, coronated. By who is the big question. And that's been really something to watch. I can tell you that when you see the Democrats trotting out one after the other over the weekend, you got to look at the timing of this. On Thursday, Kamala Harris gave her acceptance speech in the middle of the night, at least on the East Coast. Nobody watched it. Nobody watched Biden's. Nobody watched anybody's. The keynotes and main speeches were in the middle of the night. And the DNC, that convention was not joyful and exciting and all the rest. And when you see the reaction to JFK on Friday, so Thursday, the convention ends, Kamala accepts the nomination, and Friday, RFK Jr. drops out and endorses Trump and then goes to Trump's rally in Arizona. They are panicked. And the propaganda machine has to crank up again, spin everybody out there to the mainstream media over the weekend, and talk about how RFK Jr. that has his no impact, none whatsoever. It's a wash, nothing to see here. He was never a factor. All the rest. That tells you big time they're panicking, and I would be too. He's a Kennedy, and regardless of what you think of his policies or anything else, he's a major Democrat whose message is deep state, wars, health of our children, destroying our food, big pharma, all of those things that are going to resonate with a lot of independent voters. A lot. And I'd say a good number of Democrats. Don't forget, Democrats are the ones that all went organic foods, natural, organic, clean, all of that. And he's out telling them that big ag and big pharma and all the rest are poisoning our children and us. And people are going to, that's going to resonate. People are going to realize that he's saying something that's very, very true. And so we're going to see, I think, a shift. I think there is a shift happening. They're panicking. When you see them running out and saying that there's nothing to see here with RFK Jr. endorsing Trump and going to campaign with him and dismissing it and doing it vociferously and running everybody out, and it's all the same message, it hit a nerve. So then you have the Sunday opinion section, and as I said earlier, they only have two things to run on. The entire front page of the opinion section. There it is. Women's reproductive rights must be restored. The Americans of today and tomorrow should have the same freedom to make decisions about their bodies that I had before Roe v. Wade was overturned. Yeah, here in Maine, where you can kill a baby right up until birth because it's states' rights. And so that's where we're at. I don't know what this is all about. This has nothing to do with reality, but it's all they got. It's a boogeyman. So it's just the same old, same old. And that's what it's going to come down to. They don't have much to run on. They have a really, really awful record. They have a really, really awful, both candidates, president, vice president. They have a really bad economy. They have a really bad situation with the border, and they have wars going on. Gaza, protests going on. It's not a very good situation. The economy's holding its own, and they've made up a reason to drop the interest rates because that's going to be a desperation move on the part of the central bank to save Harris, Biden, their administration, the economy, and so forth. They're going to just push things over the line if they can in the next 60 days. They're just going to try and make things look better just so they can get over the finish line. And it's a real tightrope they're on because the economy is not doing so well. We just found out that they lied about almost 1 million jobs that never really were created, and they had to adjust that down. That's major lies by the administration, the deep state, the administrators, the people that run the organizations in Washington, D.C. that have a agenda. So if you read the local propaganda sheet, you'd think that Waltz is just a regular Midwest guy. Kamala Harris is competent to do anything more than run a hot dog stand. And you'd think that this election is just dire on saving, well, I guess it comes down to abortion and the planet with global warming that's not real. There we are. And that's 2 weeks of propaganda at a really critical juncture in an election cycle. And you know what's funny is I don't think any of it is working, and I don't think anybody's buying this crap. Or at least the people that matter, voters that understand what's really going on. I think reality is seeping in, and they're getting into panic mode pretty quick. So, going to be an interesting couple of months. That's all for the Suppress Herald for now. See you on the next one.